Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. Through personal and professional connections in the running world, I have the privilege of getting to know some amazing athletes. I've always been fascinated by the psychological aspect of running, and this podcast is aimed at exploring this and much more. I hope you enjoy. And welcome back. I have Becki Spellman here with me today. Becki, thanks for joining in.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I wanted to chat with you on here for a while, so it's fun to finally make it happen. Unfortunately, it's not in person, but I'm sure it'll be just as fun.
Yes, I'm sure it will.
So, for those who don't know, who is Becki?
I'm 36. I'm from Ohio, originally from the Baltimore area, but Ohio has definitely been home for the vast majority of my life. I'm a mom of twins. They're 5 years old, and I run. Yeah, I've been running since I was 12 years old. So for quite some time, and I've been really just blessed to, I guess, be able to stay healthy enough to stay in the sport and chase after my dreams, and still feel like there are goals out there I want to achieve and that I still have the ability to do it. So I'm still chasing those.
Cool. What I love about you and your running is that you've run the Olympic trials 4 times. Mm-hmm. That's some longevity in the sport. What was qualifying for the first time like?
Yeah. So I planned to run the Columbus Marathon here in Ohio in October of 2007, and I got injured about 3 weeks out, Achilles injury, and realized there's just no way to get to the start line ready to race. Backed off and decided like my shot was kind of over, and then training had started going pretty well again, so I decided I'd try and find a race I could do. Reached out to the Austin Marathon race director, Jim Conley, at the time. And he was like, this isn't a fast course. It's very hilly. And I said, I don't care. All I'm looking for is a chance. And he was like, it's not hilly. I mean, it's not the type of course that you're going to want. And I was like, yeah, but it's my only shot. It's February. The race is in April. And, I don't have a ton of options available to me. And so my first marathon was then in Austin. He finally said, yeah, fine, whatever, please come. And so I did, and it was hilly, but I don't mind hills. I really actually enjoy them. I'm not by any stretch of anyone's imagination great at hills, but I like them. They don't bother me. I don't mind hilly courses. So I showed up and things went really well. And I just told myself over and over again, anything under 6:22 is a win. And at the time, the standard was 2:46. And I kept clicking off miles that were going really well under that. And I mean, it was a bit surreal. I remember just thinking over and over again, like, did this really happen? Like, did I really qualify to the trials? Like, I was 24 years old and just really excited. I didn't have a ton of accolades in the past from college or high school. So I just was, it was definitely surreal for me. Just, I had to remind myself over and over again, like I was capable of doing things I always believed I could. And it wasn't just this, pipe dream. It was real for me.
And then, so fast forward a few years, and Atlanta 2020, which feels like a year ago at this point. We're like 3 weeks out. Yeah, I think 3 weeks out. What was that experience like, and how does that compare to the first trials you ran?
Yeah, I mean, the first Olympic trials were in Boston. It was just women, no men, and I was just scared. I mean, I was in awe of every person I saw. I mean, I still am many times when I'm there, but, just really nervous, ball of maybe negative energy in Boston for myself. But then in Atlanta, one of the really neat things was I was just relaxed. I came in having torn my Achilles last year. So quite out of shape, really no business racing a marathon. I knew there was no way I could honestly race it very well. So my mindset was really just to enjoy it, to have fun with it, to run as far as I could, and walk away from the race still healthy. I did not finish, so but I walked away healthy. So honestly, Atlanta was probably the opposite. I honestly haven't thought about it. Compared to Boston, I was anything but nervous. I was just thrilled to be there. I was soaking in everything, just the hype, the excitement. The crowds were fantastic. It was amazing to see so many people. I mean, after this long in the sport, I know a lot of people that are part of the sport and have been a wonderful part of my life, and seeing faces that I even forgot were going to be there or haven't spoken to in a long time on the side, cheering and just enjoying the day. It was one of the more incredible race experiences of my life. And, despite not knowing that finishing was probably out of my league on the day.
So if you think back to maybe 10 years ago, do you think you could have had the same experience starting a race and knowing that you might not finish?
Oh, heavens, no. I don't know if it's a lack of maturity or just a lack of life. But I mean, gosh, if you told me 10 years ago, I would be able to kind of shrug off not finishing at the Olympic trials, I probably would have cried thinking about it. And, most certainly I did tear up a little bit just telling my family, like, hey, I'm done. I'm going to head to the finish area. But, it was more just like this is where the journey for
like a victory lap.
Yeah. So it was more like I'm bummed this is over versus I'm sad for myself or anything. It was more just like, that sort of feeling. Yeah, I most certainly 10 years ago, goodness, no, definitely hard no. There's no way I could have believed that I could walk away with a smile on my face.
Well, what was the energy like on the start line? I've spoken with a few women that raced, and their feedback was, the start line was incredible, but the next 2 minutes were surreal because everyone was running the same pace.
Yeah. So, I kind of knew that would happen. You throw together 500 people who have all run within the vast majority who have all run within 10 minutes of each other. You're going to have
right.
That's going to happen. And so it was kind of fun. I mean, I didn't want to do that forever, but it was just, making sure I didn't knock anyone over. I unfortunately did in 2012. I clipped someone's heel and they went down hard. I don't know who it was, but I know it happened. And just stay on my feet. I didn't want to be one of the people who fell. I didn't want anyone to fall, but I wanted to make sure I stayed on my feet. So just kind of kept my hands open, ready to touch someone, make sure we didn't collide in a way that was going to lead to either of us falling. But it was it was still really fun. And it didn't feel like it really spread out for, like you said, those first couple minutes, but even the whole first, out Peachtree, the whole entire way out. So whatever that is, 3.5 or 4 miles, 3.5 miles, something like that, really felt, just really tight, but not in a bad way. It was, again, I had a different perspective than I've ever had walking into the race. So I was really just enjoying being there. So I think that might have, had the same thing happened, in either of the 3 Olympic trials I've run prior, I think I would have had a lot of anxiety.
So it takes a lot to run successfully for, 16 years, or, you said you've been running since you were 12. How has so the goal of this podcast is exploring the why and helping to understand and explore what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. So I love any opportunity I get to have someone like yourself on who has been doing it at a high level for a long time. So how has your why changed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, when I started running, I liked winning. I liked kind of the attention of all of it. I really liked the accolade of like, my family being excited about it, my coaches being excited about it, my teammates. I really loved that aspect of just, yeah, I felt a sense of pride, something I hadn't felt before, at 12 years old. Then a ton of opportunities for that. I did well in school, but other than that, there wasn't small town. I'm from a real small town, so it wasn't a ton of things you could get, good attention for anyway. So, winning, I won my first mile race and kind of was hooked from there. I thought I'd be a sprinter. My sister was. She's 10 months older than me, so I kind of followed in her footsteps. But the why really started out as a selfish means to get attention and to feel proud of myself. And that mindset, probably lasted into college, if I'm being honest with myself. I mean, I cared about my teammates, but I wasn't necessarily there for them. I don't think I realized how valuable they were, and I definitely took them for granted. I had a wonderful high school team, and I don't know that I don't know that I really appreciated them as much as I should have when I was in it. Once I got to college, I really started seeing the team aspect a lot more and realizing like I can contribute to this. I can make choices that help other people feel the same sense of pride that I feel and I enjoy feeling. And that became my why, how to make my teammates, help my teammates to be part of that, to be there for them. And then as an adult, it's most certainly just become about the people in the sport, in particular for me, the many women that have been brought into my life from my running camp I put on, from Oiselle, and the people in the community near in and about Ohio area that have just really supported me over the years and become great friends. People I stay the night at their house when I'm in town, people I check in on, people that check in on me. And, one of them babysat my kids when they were really little, a retired teacher, Diane, and just amazing people that come together to support one another and give the reason, a little extra reason behind every step. Like, I want them to be proud. I want them to know how much I care about them when I'm racing in the city that they're in, and get to spend time with them, and how proud I am of their efforts and their goals and their the sacrifices that they make to achieve those things. I think it's really just become about a support system over the years where, when I was young, it certainly was significantly more out of selfish ambition. I think that kind of answers it.
Cool. I love how it's evolved. And it's sort of like a natural progression. And then how did you get started with the running camps?
Yeah. So I've been to quite a few of Oiselle's running camps, and Anna Weber, a teammate who also runs for Oiselle, and I were talking about just like, the camp there is really about empowering women, which we are 100% for, but we really wanted it to be more run specific. And so we, started doing stuff with like functional movement, mental training, and things along those lines. Started talking about what that would look like, and got a lot of great feedback from people who were like, we are really interested in seeing what this would be. And so we started it last year. Unfortunately, it's supposed to be starting tomorrow in Austin. And this year we will be doing it via Zoom, a few of our sessions, and look forward to 2021.
Cool. How did you get linked up with Wazelle originally?
Yeah. So, I think it was 2009. It might have been 2010. I think it was 2009. I got a pair of their shorts and I was like, these are pretty great. And so I was looking at just their online site, which had, I think, like 12 items, very small, brand new company. They started in 2007, if my memory serves me correctly. And I reached out to Sally, the owner and CEO, and said like, hey, you're no one, I'm no one. Do you want to be no one together? And she was like, yeah, let's do this. And then like they became someone, right? And like, and they just like brought me along. So I just reached out and was like, so what's up? You guys want like someone in Ohio who likes your stuff? And they were like, yeah. And then I really had no idea what an incredible company of support they were going to be, not only for myself, but watching them support people I care about, watching, and not even on the elite level, just in general, being a support system. I had no idea what I was getting into, but it's been an incredible ride for sure. So yeah, I've been with them for quite some time.
And how has that evolved? I've loved watching them grow over the years as well.
Yeah, I mean, it started with like, I had 4 Wazelle items that I was like scared to death to lose because, at races you like strip off your pants. I'm like, these are my only pants. But, and I also was so young, I didn't have much income. So I was, and I mean, they were taking care of me, but I was like scared to lose my stuff. And then, over time, it just turned into Wazelle was growing. And I think, from the outside looking in, it really seemed to me like they were growing because they were showing people how much they cared about the sport. They were putting time into fighting for rights within the sport for the athletes. And these were all things I really wanted to be part of. So I started just doing my own small things on the side where I was reaching out to people who were involved and helping in ways that made sense to me in a much smaller way. But that we're still part of the cause, reaching out, building up those relationships and just being able to be a small part of what they were doing allowed me to grow as a person, allowed me to see things in a bigger picture, than I had before, to understand, maybe life wasn't all about me. And, it wasn't just about my running, but it was about how being given a voice because of them was able to help me to help other people. So it's definitely changed over the years. I started it with just like a hope for some free gear, and it turned into a lifestyle full of so many incredible people that it's kind of hard to put words to.
Cool. And so another piece of the puzzle, sort of continuing on the idea of your own running, helping others, where did coaching come into play?
Yeah, I started coaching in 2006. I was working at a running store, managing a running store, and just writing plans, kind of generic-ish plans that were just slightly tailored to help other people. I was really lucky in college, and I had a coach who would have us write our own programs and then tear them to shreds and tell us like how this was not at all intelligent. But it taught me to quite, that's like really
4 tempos a week and 2 long runs.
Exactly. And it taught me like some ideas that I thought were fascinating, but it more so made me a student of the sport. So just started, when I started working, I had a ton of reading behind what I had done. I'd read tons of different philosophies and just ways that people trained, and saw that not everything worked well for everyone. And so I was hired on at Wright State. It's a Division I school in Dayton, Ohio, in 2009, I think. And so I coached at the Division I level for 2.5 years before I got divorced and decided to move out of Dayton. So I didn't stick with them, but really loved it. And that's when things were kind of like, oh, wow, like I'm back in a running store. I really miss coaching. And that's when I started coaching online. And I had, 3 or 4, athletes I was working with and kind of toying with the ideas of like, do I make a cookie cutter plan and then tweak it for everyone? And finally decided, no, like if I want to coach, I really want to get to know the athlete, get to know the person, get to know what makes them tick and how to best serve them as an athlete. So, slowly started building, just a number of athletes that I work with. And, now I make it like, it's a full-time job. So yeah, I love it. And I work pretty hard at it, but I think the relationships, in coaching for me are what's kept me in it so long and really just enjoying doing it with like no desire to stop. I really love getting to meet the people and getting to know them over time.
Cool. Do you get to see your athletes race, or is it mostly online?
It's mostly online. I try to do a meetup. Like last year I did one with 14 of my athletes came to the Akron Marathon. So I had the pleasure of watching them race there. I also will have been lucky, to just be at the same races as my athletes where I'll be able to, like Richmond, for example, I had a number of athletes there. So I ran the half, finished, and then was able to cheer on, I think I had 6 athletes in the full. So get to see them a little bit. And then whenever I'm in a place where my athletes are, I try to meet up as well. So I do travel to race and try to pull everyone together when I get the chances also.
Cool. What do you have that you're looking forward to in the next couple of years from a big scary goal standpoint?
Yeah. So I've dropped out of more than one marathon, actually. I dropped out of my marathon prior to the Olympic trials as well at CIM in 2018 was my last marathon. Prior to that, I dropped out thinking I had a cold going in and I knew it was probably going to be a tough day, which was a bummer because I was the fittest I've ever been and really thought I had a shot at breaking 235. My PR is 240 and 16 seconds. So that would have been a big PR for me. And it's also from 2009. So it would have been a great thing to finally break that PR. Well, I felt terrible in the race. I tried to just like, Becki, you got to let this go. You're really fit. You don't want to waste this opportunity. But like my arms were aching by like mile 2. I was just really struggling. And I came through like 16 miles right on 6-minute pace. And obviously, given the circumstances of the past year, tearing my Achilles, golly, I wish I could go back and just force my way through it. But I dropped out and found out I had pneumonia 3 days later. So I felt a little justified in my choice to drop out. However, my big, hairy, scary goal is get back in that sort of shape and finally break 240 and hopefully 235 along the way. When I tore my Achilles and had the surgery last year, my doctor told me he didn't expect me to ever fully recover, that he expected 80% to be what I would be able to get back at. And I'm pretty confident and hopeful that is not a real limitation. So I have a lot to be thankful for.
What will it take to get that 235?
Like a year and a half at least. I think time for me, tempo runs are really challenging. I'm much better at speed. I ran the mile and the steeplechase in college. That side of things comes a lot more naturally for me. I can always run decent 400s. It is not indicative of my fitness in any way. I can run great 400s probably any day and look fit, but when it comes down to racing, they don't mean anything. For me, it's really the longer tempos, 2x5 miles, 2x6 miles, 16 miles, a marathon pace, whatever that, those type of workouts for me are what I have to be very, very diligent about. Forcing isn't the word I want to use, but really putting my effort into those type of workouts when they're presented. I also am not getting younger. And the older I get, the more important I realize it is to have a strong body. So being very diligent about doing core, which I hate, and strength, which I hate more than core, are two things that, if I could just run and never do anything, I'd be thrilled, but that's very unrealistic. Yeah. So I do core at least 4 days a week, try to do 5, and strength 3 days a week. And those are things, I didn't do, for years, a lot of years. But the older I get and the older I get, the more I'm like, well, I thought I'd quit running when I was in my 40s, but that's not real. Like, I'll quit when I'm in my 50s. The older I get, the more I want to stretch this out. So the more I'm realizing I'm going to have to do those sort of things to stay healthy and stay in the sport.
Cool. Do you do any mental training too?
I do. I don't work with anyone anymore. I used to work with a man named Sean Goodsell out of Minnesota. And he gave me quite a number of tools to use. And I do a lot of visualization going into big races. We'll set aside maybe 10 minutes every day for the 2 weeks leading up to the race. And prior to that, maybe like 3 times a week, spend time really thinking about what the goal is, what I want, and what things I'm going to have to overcome in order to achieve that. I'd love to just believe I win every race and have that work, but it never does. So I have to think through the things that bother me more than anything. Feeling crummy, having someone pull away from me, missing a water bottle, those sort of things. I have to think of the things that will cause me anxiety and already be making this conscious decision over and over again to make the, if you will, like in air quotes here, right choice, like make the choices that allow me to calm down and stay focused and in control of what I'm doing. So I do that a lot. And then I also just have a journal that I write just confidence building stuff in, just to remind myself, the great things that have happened within a training block or even just a given day.
That kind of self-reflection is awesome. What do you wish you knew when you started running, or maybe, as a 20-year-old or 22-year-old that you know now?
Ooh. I think that running is just running would be something. I mean, not knowing when to quit has really benefited me in many ways. But also at the same time, it's hurt me. I mean, I've been injured a lot. And rolling with the punches is something I'm very good at and has, like I said, benefited me very much. But I wish that I would have saw running as running instead of as like this all-consuming life thing. I mean, not that I wouldn't give the time or effort the same way, just that I wouldn't let it negatively affect me when things weren't going well. I mean, I'm very well known in my family for being a total bitch when I'm not running well. I mean, like, if things aren't going well in running, things aren't going well for anyone. And, that's like my mom in particular, like, if Becky's not running, just don't bring her home. Like, she doesn't need to come home. And, I mean, things have changed over the years and I've gotten better, but for sure, I wish I could go back and tell myself, like, a bad tempo run is just a bad tempo run. It's nothing. It's not real. If you would chill out, you'd first off run better, and second off enjoy life more. So yeah, I think I wish I could just kind of throw away the silly anxiety that I realized was just self-imposed and had nothing to do with actually being a good athlete.
I think that's it's something that we're all sort of working on. But then there's the piece where it's, when it's going well, it's going really well. Mm-hmm. And so and life goes really well too. So it's like trying to figure out, how do you take the lessons from the highs and sort of extrapolate that into life when the running is on the lower side. So you're a coach. How do you give guidance to your athletes that may be in a situation like that?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things I think I've learned over the years, which I mean, my athletes, I'm sure all know this, but I've done a ton of reading. I spend a lot of time researching what can work for different people, but a lot of what they see is from my experience, and from experiences of those around me that I'm close to. But when one of my athletes is struggling through something, I just try to remind them, like, there's an ebb and flow to all of this. And at the end of the day, this is just running. Like, we get to do this. We don't have to do this. And a lot of the time, I think it's something that saying it I don't feel like always fixes anything. But once that becomes real to someone, like, this is something I get to do. This is a privilege. I think running starts to feel more freeing and less like a chore, when things are going bad. And when you can look at it as like, I'm at point A or wherever you are. And, I know that my goals seem so far away, but every day gives me an opportunity to work toward that. Even if, you're 3 months injured and you're working your way back and you're really struggling, it can be hard to see it in the moment, which is why I think writing down some good confidence things in each day can be big, because you can look back at your training log and see, this week, in my opinion, sucked, but 3 months ago, my gosh, like, I would have been thrilled to have this week. I'm losing focus on that, and with my Achilles injury, I really struggled with that and had to look back and see, like, wow, I've come a lot further than I think I have. And I've been really lucky. Actually, one of my athletes, Melissa Molman, she's just an angel. She's also a psychologist, and she'll be like, Becki, like, is that what you would tell one of us? Like, she'll remind me, like, I hope you're being kind to yourself, because you wouldn't let one of us act like this. And she's right. And so really good perspective. I've got people looking out for me too, but yeah, I would definitely just tell my athletes to, like, keep looking back and remembering how far you've come instead of worrying about where you're not.
Definitely. So the ebb and flow is interesting. And it applies to life outside of running too. I just had a call with our CEO and my boss, and we were talking about, like, the business right now. It's ebbing and it's flowing, and so is the economy, and so are most people's livelihoods. And it's what makes it interesting, right? Like, you get to figure out how to dig out of the low, and that's exciting, and that's like where all the fun is. The highs, I don't think the highs would be as high without the lows being so low.
No, totally agree. I mean, I think we all do this because we enjoy a challenge. And if we took the challenge of it away and we were all just like winning New York City, I mean, it would be not, I mean, sorry, Shalane, don't get me wrong. It's amazing and I would be thrilled. But if we all did it, like, the thrill would be missing for sure. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point of it all. Like, I talked with Shalane last week about that exact moment, and she was like, I pictured this for my, like, this is what the moment that I've been dreaming about for my whole career. And I was like, did you want it to last forever? And her answer was no. It was partly I wanted it to last forever, and partly it needed to end as soon as possible so that I could be sure that it was going to turn out the way she wanted it to turn out. But what she was saying was, like, that's, like, she's come from so far, or we've come from so far, and these astronomically high highs are that much higher as a result. I think about my own running. I raced Boston in 2017, and I didn't race again, and I didn't race a marathon again until May of 2019. And the rest of 2017, that marathon was brutal. Boston.
Yes.
I ran an hour over goal time,
Oh.
and I didn't recover for a while, and I was sort of like in the depths of running for a bit. And I just kept putting, one foot in front of the other, and things weren't going well. And then I got to the start line for the Providence Marathon that May of 2019. And it was like a totally different place. And the lows give you the gratitude to be present in the moment.
Yeah.
So is gratitude something that you practice? I found that with a lot of successful athletes, it's like a big component of what they do.
Yeah. I mean, yes, absolutely. Just remember, there have been times when motivation is lacking, and I remind myself, you're going to want to be fast one day. So you're healthy right now. So get the work in. And when that day shows up, you'll be ready. And having running taken away from me a number of times due to injuries and seeing it taken away from others that I care about, I think more than anything has taught me like not to take it for granted. And I mean, right now, currently, I don't know if I've ever been so happy running. Like really finding joy in it. A year ago right now, I couldn't run at all. I was in quite a bit of pain, and just walking around. And I had a long road ahead of me. And, I think often, especially when I'm struggling out there, I think, well, it's significantly better than the position I was in a year ago today. And it does put a smile on my face. And I think gratitude, just constantly reminding myself how lucky I was, one, to be qualified in Atlanta to run in the Olympic trials, two, to have such an incredible support system, and three, to be healthy enough to be on the start line. I think that's why Atlanta for me was just such a joy. Like I couldn't have had, it was impossible to have more fun than I had. I really think it's just because I was so thankful for every little thing. Like, I'm here. This is wonderful. I don't really care. I can only control what I can control. And I wasn't worried about anything outside of my own control. And I was just soaking in all the wonderful things that were, there in that moment and in that time. Yeah, I really think that practicing that, and part of the things I write down every day in my running log are just what I am thankful for, whether it be what my body was able to do or just nice weather. If, my body didn't feel like showing up that day, there's always something that I can find to look at and be like, wow, I'm really glad this is what I'm doing.
Definitely. And I can definitely confirm that you were super happy in Atlanta, because I saw you at the Wazelle party and you had a crowd around you every time I tried to come up and say hello. You were like dancing around and having so much fun. I felt bad interrupting.
I'm sorry.
That was quite the after party. No worries.
Yes, Wazelle folks are not afraid to have fun.
That is for sure. So yeah, I think gratitude is a practice that is so simple but so powerful. I had a really interesting conversation with Alphine about gratitude and sort of how it has played a role in her journey. She's like, I wouldn't be here without gratitude.
Yeah.
I looking back on where she's come from, it's fascinating to watch a story like that evolve. And what was really interesting was she was like, yeah, I won the race, but I'm still the same person, and I'm still, appreciative of my past, and I'm still appreciative of where I came from. And so I think that if you can get to the start line with that kind of gratitude, you can do anything. So like I was saying, I stood on that start line in Providence last spring, and I had been trying to break 3 in the marathon for 4 years.
Okay.
And I was, I think, 0 for 4 with a 401 to my name in a sub 3 attempt. And I stood on that start line. I didn't give a shit about the race in the best way possible. I was like, I'm here. That's a win. It was raining. It was cool. And I couldn't stop smiling, and the race started, and I kept seeing 640s click off my watch. And I was like, I've never run like this. This pace has never been this easy. And it felt like flying. And I think that's like, it's like a mix of flow and like being like fully present.
Yeah.
And I'm like getting goosebumps talking about it. But
no,
I think
true,
that if you can get to that point, it's powerful.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think maturity does. I mean, I've met, younger women that I'm like, Jude, how did you get here so quick? They've got it. They've figured it out. But, I do think maturity and time in the sport, which is why I love seeing, I want the Olympic trial standard, not that this is what you asked me, but I want the Olympic trial standard to get tightened a little bit. But I hope that it stays wide enough that we've got women still chasing, not women scared of like failing, more so women who are there to chase. And I think 242 or 243 type time would still completely open those doors. But seeing so many young women willing to go after it is, in 2008, it wasn't the same story. It was even with the standard being so low, like seeing how things have changed in terms of women's running from the inside has been, truly incredible. So I really hope that the door continues to stay open for many, many women, because I think that it just empowers their lives. And watching the difference between, a 32-year-old woman on a start line and a 25-year-old, oftentimes you see a lot of the older, if you will, women doing better because they have that maturity, they have that gratitude, they've lived through those type of scenarios where they finally decide, like, I get to do this. It's not something I have to do. This is something I get to do and I get to love and pour myself into. So I really hope that it's people keep chasing. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Why do you think twice as many women qualified as men?
Oh, the men's standard's harder. That's what I think. I don't think it's a lack of men trying. I really think the men's standard is just a tighter standard. I think it's been that way for a while. Yeah. I think enough women just really went after it.
Yeah, but I agree with that for sure. But I also think that I was having this conversation with Erin Strout, and we did a podcast prior to the trials, and her point was that what's cool with women's running is that it's like a collective movement, and you have women sharing their story and sharing the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows. And I'd say outside of like a handful of dudes, talking Peter Bromka, Tommy Pusey, and people like that, like you can't think of all that many that are chasing the men's standard and sort of rallying others around it.
Yeah, the women's running
movement, literally 50 women.
Oh yeah. No,
no, go ahead.
There's definitely something going on, and I think social change has happened a lot in the past 15 years or whatever it's been. And, women aren't afraid to say, no, I'm not going to have kids yet. I'm going to wait. I don't, I want, or saying I have kids and I can still be a person. I don't have to just stay home, just take care of my kids. I can have social interaction. I can run. I can chase after my dreams. I think that that's changed a lot, and the stigma behind it has not necessarily 100% changed, but has, made a shift. And I think women are loving being able to be a part of that too. I think it's empowering to feel like you're doing something, maybe socially, even if it's only really affecting our small bubbles, like a lot. I think social things, ripple effect, but still, feeling like you're doing something that's bigger than yourself is super empowering. And, we all want that. I think most people, wouldn't shy away from from doing something bigger than themselves and feeling like they're a part of that. And I think that's really, really amazing. Like I ran Columbus in 2008 through 20 miles at 2:45 pace, just to help as many women as I could get the standard. And I mean, it felt like I wasn't even running. It was easy. It wasn't, but it was because it was bigger than me. It wasn't me. Right. It had nothing to do with
me. It's fascinating how when you do it for someone else, it's like a totally different effort.
And I think you go to CIM, you go to grandma's, you go to those races where a lot of women are coming together and you get that type of synergy going. And, you might not even necessarily be quite as fit as you're running, but it sure as hell feels like it, like how can you let go, and by time you're tired enough to realize like, shit, this is really hard. It's like, yeah, well, I only have 3 more miles and I've come this far. I'm doing the thing, So I agree with what you're saying, that, it's incredible. There's something happening and women are supporting each other and pulling each other along and feeling like what they're doing is making a difference, even if it is just in the running community. I think it's bigger than that, but even if it was just that, I think that is motivation. And really, like, it's really exciting to watch, having seen it change over the years.
Cool. What are you scared of?
Like the dark? I don't know. What do you mean? Tearing my Achilles again? I mean, I am also afraid of the dark, but my kids know this too. They're like, "Oh, mom, she's so weird." But yeah, I mean, honest, in running, my biggest fear is going to bed at night when I'm 50 years old, wondering what if I would have tried harder? What if I would have given myself another shot? Whatever that might be. I want to know and I feel like I've done a decent job of this over the years, but I feel like there's still more to give. So I want to know that when I'm done running competitively, I gave the best I could and got that out of myself. Yeah. So I'm afraid of not doing that. And from a running standpoint.
I love asking that question because sometimes people will say something like you said, I'm afraid of the dark, or they'll launch into what you shared there. Others have said snakes or caterpillars or like silly things like that.
Caterpillar.
So maybe it wasn't caterpillar, it was scorpion. Something like that. Yeah. Where can we find you if we want to follow along with your journey on social?
Yeah, Instagram is where I'm most active, and it's Becki Spell, Becki Spell. Same for Twitter, and then I'm just Becki Spellman on Facebook. Yeah.
Cool. Becki, thanks so much for joining in today, and we'll see you out there.
Okay, thanks for having me.
That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next week on For the Long Run, and in the meantime, happy trails. If you've enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too. Stay tuned for a bonus episode coming this Friday, where I'll be chatting with a pro runner who's lining up for a virtual edition of Boulder Boulder this Memorial Day. We'll talk virtual races, why they're important, and this runner's strategies. Enjoy.